Skirt, skirt. Told you we always been ready. I don't need people that's petty, that weigh on me heavy while I'm being steady. I need a record with Felly. We get it bouncing like Betty's, I feel like I'm Nelly. Don't bring the beef like a deli. It's leave on that levy, no sleeping on me like I'm Freddy. Chris Breeze, how I do, hit him with the moves. Left hand step back, ballin' like I'm Coos. All faith, God's plan, you just gotta choose. God slaps, nothing left to prove. Y'all gotta leave me alone. Lately I've been in my zone. Told them no cap like I fitted, but lately the flows have been straight off the dome. I feel like I'm MVP, like my name Patty Mahomes. If it ain't about money, don't hit on my phone, cause lately I've been in my zone.
Hello, welcome to the Cowboy Show, hosted by Ben Carey and Nick Gronerad, combining expert human opinions with cutting-edge simulation models to help you arrive at the best picks each week. Inside Edge Community. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's stream. We've got Monday Night Football action. The Los Angeles Rams and the San Francisco 49ers. Niners currently 3.5-point dogs, despite the game being in San Francisco, or not really in San Francisco, but in the San Francisco general area. Total currently sitting at 50.5. So Ben, how you feeling about the game?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited for this one. I think it's going to be a good matchup. There's a lot of new pieces for the Rams tonight. I think both of the two that I'm speaking to are going to be playing tonight. We'll see at what capacity, but I don't know, a little bittersweet for me with Von Miller, but
yeah. So let's talk about those two new pieces. So they have a new offensive addition and a new defensive addition. On the defensive side of the football, like you just said, we have Von Miller coming over in a trade before the deadline from the Denver Broncos. So how do you think Von Miller is going to help out this defense? I mean, obviously Von Miller is a great player and is going to help out, but what do you think he adds to this Rams team that they need?
Yeah, it's simply the pass rush. I don't think he's going to be an every down back as he was like 3-4 years ago. I think they're going to put him in on passing downs, and they'll mix him in here and there, but I think that's where they're going to utilize him the most. The Rams, I mean, they have a few other good linebackers, but I think that's where he's just going to come in and really make a name for himself on this team.
Yeah, and I really think that another thing that it does is it gives the Rams a really elite, potential Hall of Fame quality player on all three levels of the defense. They have Aaron Donald on the defensive line, Von Miller at linebacker, although I guess as an edge, he's not really a traditional linebacker per se. Mm-hmm. And then Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. And I think it can only help the defense. It's already been a decent defense at least, but you can never have too many pass rushers, as they say.
Absolutely.
So on the offensive side of the ball, big addition, Odell Beckham Jr. So OBJ released by the Browns, cleared waivers, and decided to take his talents to Los Angeles. Supposedly, he wanted playing time and to chase a Super Bowl ring. But, I mean, I don't really know how much more LA offers of that, or at least did offer of that at the time he signed than Cleveland did. Mm-hmm. I think that he likes the bigger market. He really thrived in New York. Didn't do so well in Cleveland, and I think he's going to bounce back a little bit in LA. But I think it's pretty imperative, pretty important for the Rams that they brought in OBJ when they did, because they have a pretty important injury in the same position group. So who is that, Ben?
Robert Woods, which it's crazy because the timeline, I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday, Nick, when they signed OBJ.
Something like that, yeah.
Which is important to know because it wasn't even earlier in the week. But anyways, the next day, I believe Robert Woods injured his knee, and at first they thought it wasn't anything serious, but it was an ACL. So he's out for the year.
Yeah, so I'd like to start a conspiracy theory. Are you ready for this?
It was set up.
Yeah, what if it was OBJ who hurt Robert Woods?
he paid the grounds crew, paid them off to not put a certain chemical in the grass. Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking more along the lines of like a Buffalo Wild Wings button type deal.
Oh yeah.
So OBJ just showed up, and then Robert Woods is running around. He presses the button, and then there goes Robert. But I think that's pretty unlikely. So how do you think OBJ is going to help out this offense
tonight, or
I think let's focus on tonight first.
Tonight, I think the only thing that's really going to help is the depth, and that the defense is going to have to, I guess, quote unquote, like keep him in mind. But as far as his impact tonight, I think it's going to be very minimal. I really do, because he's coming in on a short week. He doesn't know the game. He doesn't know the offense. I mean, more times than not, when you see players, especially on the offensive side, come in, skilled position players, they're going to have a handful of plays and formations that he's comfortable being in. But I don't think he's going to see 70, 80% of the snaps tonight. I just don't think there is a way that happens. And if it does, I would be shocked if it works out for the Rams, to be honest.
Yeah, it doesn't really seem like a good thing to bring in a guy who is new to the offense and throw him into the fire like that. I mean, he's been around the block before. He knows how to play receiver in the NFL, but it is always joining up with a new offense. There is that kind of learning curve. It takes a while to get up to speed. So the Rams, though, they might not have all that much of a choice, at least if they wanna air the ball out tonight. This receiving group, I think in the last couple of years, it's felt really deep. It feels like they've had some good, like, third and fourth options. But this year, I don't really feel that way. Obviously, Cooper Kupp is playing out of his mind, and I think that this is actually correlated. I think Kupp is having such a good season, such a high-volume season, because those secondary options on the Rams just aren't as good this year as they have been. I mean, so they lost Josh Reynolds in the offseason and Gerald Everett in the offseason. Those are two really good receivers. They still have Kupp, like I was talking about, and Jefferson, but behind that, there's nobody who is a proven pass-catching option. So I think that OBJ, just from that perspective, is going to see a little bit more of the field tonight than he should.
Absolutely. Because of the injury, of course, and the other guy that we need to mention, and we will as we run through this, is Van Jefferson, but he's still a guy who's, I think now he's at he's in his second year, and he's now starting to trend upwards. But to your point, yeah, he isn't proven yet. He hasn't had those games where he's been super reliable. So yeah, OBJ might have to go in on certain plays, but I think it's going to be either plays where he's the number one or number two option, where it's like, hey, run this, the ball's coming your way, or very simple concepts. Other than that, I just don't see him being that much of an impact. And also, he joined the team Thursday, so
was that like officially joined the team, like first practice on Thursday?
No, that's when the trade happened. So
it was free agent signing, but yeah.
Yeah. So Friday, let's just assume Friday was his first day of like learning the playbook and the strategy and scheme for the game. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So actually, they're kind of lucky they're getting a Monday night game.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, not a lot of like practice. I mean, from a timing perspective with Stafford, that's not going to be there. So I just don't see how OBJ comes out and has any sort of an impact in this game. But vice versa, though, with Von Miller, it's a little different because you can put a guy in on like third down, and if he gets a sack, that's felt right, and that changes. That could change the game. So.
I feel at least like from a team coordination standpoint, it's a little bit easier to tell a guy to go out there and just rush the quarterback than it is to have a guy and like running route concepts that are interacting with other guys.
Nick, even running backs, like we saw Adrian Peterson just come in and like it's simpler, right? I don't want to just take away like what running backs do because they have a hard job.
Just run the ball.
Yeah, run left, run right.
Go
like
forward.
Hit this hole, hit A gap, hit B gap.
Left stick forward.
But
It's
wide
easy.
receiver, I would say, and I'm biased because I played wide receiver. I still think corner is the hardest position to play in football because of the rules. But wide receiver, I think, is top 3 with quarterback. And then there's always the centers who get really mad when they're not included. I know it's a hard job as a center, but wide receiver, it's a really tough position because you're running literally multiple routes depending on where the coverage is at. It's not just, you know, in Madden where it's like, hey, do this. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So gonna say hi to the chat now. So T Cherry, first one here before the theme music started. I know. I love the theme music. I didn't mute it today. I was jamming. I love it.
Gets me pumped up like I'm ready to go play.
I mean, we are. We're out here playing right now.
Yeah, we're playing.
What's up, Velocity? Ryan Boris, is OBJ really a big pickup? We just talked about that. Big Germ says OBJ will help on third down.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree. They can cook up a few plays where they say, hey, OBJ, here are 5 plays. These are going to be third down plays on 3rd and X that we're going to have you in the game, and yeah, narrow this down. It's one of those things where it's like, let's just take a small piece and you master that versus
you can be
trying
good,
to like,
really good at a couple things as opposed to being like passable at a lot of things.
Yeah,
that's a more effective way to integrate a guy into a system on such short notice.
Mm-hmm. And everyone, real quick, that's on TikTok, come join the Twitch. That's where we'll answer and acknowledge some of the questions that you guys have. But
yeah, that's twitch.tv/cap_WIZE. So capwise with an underscore between the cap and the wise.
Yeah, and I have the link in the bio, so you can head that way. But yeah, let's talk about the simulation score, Nick, because I have a feeling about this one, and I think the 49ers are going to keep this pretty close.
Yeah, I kind of think that the Niners are going to keep this close as well. So the model that we have has this as a 25.15 to 24.87 win for the Rams. So if we're rounding these to the nearest whole number, it's a 25-25. So it's like basically a dead heat. We've got the Rams covering by between half a point, right around half a point, and a total of mental math. A little, just like barely over 50. I have a math degree, but if you talk to people who have math degrees, they're really, really bad at mental math. It's kind of funny how it works.
It is.
But anyways, yeah, I think that the Niners are going to keep this close. I think that we've addressed already, talking about OBJ, some of the reasons for that. I think that the Rams are going to just be a little bit more limited offensively with this swap, more or less, from Robert Woods to Odell Beckham Jr. And I think it can't help the offense. It's got to hurt the offense.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't tell me that Woods being out and OBJ being in game 1 is a better thing for this offense.
Yeah, no, it's not.
No.
Long term, it might be, but tonight, doubtful.
And that's an argument too, long term. But yeah, as of tonight, I just don't think how you can argue that, really.
Yeah. So, all of that said, I mean, sitting at 3.5, it is a low spread.
Yeah, 3.5.
So we do, if we are hypothetically taking the Niners against the spread here, we do get the key number of 3 on our side, but beyond that, not all that much.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you rate the Niners' chances of actually winning this game outright?
Well, it's complicated, right? Because your second best wide receiver's out. You have a new guy in. You have new pieces too on defense. You're on the road. It's a home dog on primetime. Man, it's tough to say. I mean, this is one of those games where I don't want to be on the Rams -3.5. I don't even want to be on the Rams -3.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of with you there. I think that I like, lean-wise at least, I like the Niners here. So I want to talk for a second about this. Niners plus 3.5 versus the money line at plus 150. So we typically only deal in spreads and totals. But is this potentially a spot where the spread is a little on the low side, where you'd be interested in the plus 150?
Yes, but still 3.5.
Yeah, I think I'd rather have the 3.5. Important to talk about it though.
But this, from a situational spot, 49ers right now 3-5, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you lose this game, go to 3-6. Your playoff chances have to decrease drastically, right? If you move to 4-5, kind of back in things, right? So I think from that, it's a motivational factor. I think that you have to at least factor in to some extent. Of course, the Rams want to win too, but this game means a lot right now for them. If they lose this game, they're kind of out of it. If the Rams lose, you can kind of say, hey, we just got OBJ and new pieces. We're moving forward. These moves are to help us win a Super Bowl type thing. At least that can be kind of the apologetic narrative. But the 49ers, if they lose, that's, I want to say, their season. So,
yeah, it certainly would not be looking good for the Niners if they lost.
Mm-hmm.
So if they fall to 3-6, they're a couple games out of a wild card spot at that point. Not looking pretty. And I agree. I don't really think that the Niners are a playoff team.
I agree, but
yeah, they have a lot of good pieces. There's just something about the puzzle coming together that's just not working.
But I will say though, Kittle's back.
Yeah,
that's part of the puzzle that's back. So I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see. So I want to address a question that we got in the chat from VSM, first time chat. Thanks for checking out the stream first and foremost. So can you guys share what is your simulation methodology? So the way that the simulation works is I should make a command for this. Make a little video. Oh, I am making a video actually, so that'll work. But how the simulations work is you start. So it's a play-by-play simulation. So you start 1st and 10 from the 25, whatever team has the ball to start the game. And then you go down a big decision tree. So is it going to be a run or a pass? And then if it's a run, who gets the ball? If it's player A who gets the ball, how many yards do they go? Or if it's player B who gets the ball, how many yards do they go? Or if it's a pass, who gets the target? And then depending on the target, is it a catch or an incompletion or an interception, or is it a sack? And then how many yards does it go for if it's a play that changes the yard line? And then you update, so now it's 2nd and 1 from the 34. And you run through the same process over and over and over again until the game ends. And then you repeat that process thousands and thousands of times. Aggregate it all. And that's how we get the sims. So we're really trying to be as granular as possible. Take all of the actual individual player skills and correlations into account in what we're doing. Because we think
versus it's a gut play.
Yeah, well, and versus other really legitimate modeling things that you can do. But I think that just being able to take into account the way that the players interact with each other on a way that makes injuries actually matter in the simulation, and being able to quantify that in a meaningful way, I think that's important. So that's that. Let's talk about this total for a second. So I'm showing 50.5. I believe this was 50.5 pretty much everywhere. Model has it below by 0.4 points or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a good read for this total. I really think it could go either way. I think that both of the teams have a lot of offensive question marks. We've talked about the Rams extensively already. I think on the side of the Niners, they have been struggling offensively, but they do have Kittle back. It looks like Brandon Ayuk is finally getting involved a little bit. I think Deebo Samuel was hurt for playing, but hurt. And I think that he's getting healthier. So definitely a lot of upside, but also a lot of question marks on both of these sides. So personally, I think the total is a fade spot.
Yeah, and another thing too about this total, I'm curious to see the pace the Rams play at tonight. They've tried to play quicker at times, but I'm curious if they try to slow down just a little bit, considering some of the newer parts, if that makes sense. Especially, if OBJ's out there, right? They want to make sure that he knows the play, knows the route, and things of that nature. So that could essentially help this under too. But
Yeah, it might be hard to
a lot of
run hurry up
speculation.
with OBJ on the field.
Yeah,
Or
a lot of
at least have
speculation,
the
but-
defense respect him as a receiver in those situations.
Yeah,
I think that's an excellent point.
yeah. So staying away from that personally. So I guess lean San Francisco.
Yeah, and we're gonna go plus the 3.5 as opposed to the money line. Will with the ultimate degen bet. Not that I haven't done this before, also, but I have Rams 27-23 exact final score plus 27,000. Good luck to you. I would take it because that means San Francisco covers, so our lean hits.
Yeah.
Oh no, never mind. That wouldn't hit.
Oh, he has the Rams.
Yeah, no, I for some reason I thought again mental math. I thought 27 minus 23 was 3, which it's not. It's 4. But still, I think that's right in the ballpark.
Yeah, it's
I
gonna be
think-
right around there.
Yeah, I think both teams somewhere in the 20s kind of feels right. All right, so you're ready to move on to the player prop market, Ben?
Yes,
Yes. Very
I am ready.
very definitive yes. All right. So we're gonna move over to Draftkings for a lot of this. We can shop around if we need to, if we want to. But starting with the passing market, we've got Jimmy Garoppolo over under 252.5 passing yards. Matthew Stafford over under 288.5 passing yards. No XG boost. I've tried doing a couple things along those lines. Like I've tried fitting XG boost and neural nets, and it doesn't really make all that much of a difference over stuff that I can get to run a little faster. And I think the computation time for getting enough sims done to let things aggregate nicely, let the CLT kick in, is more important than getting the absolute best fit model, which XG boost does do a better job of.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now. But Nick, Matt Stafford, it's a high number, 288.
Yeah, it
How do you
is.
feel about that?
It is a little high, especially considering the fact that we've got Cooper Kupp and basically nobody else as consistent receiving options for the Rams. Known quantity receiving options, we'll say. So, I mean, at the same time, though, the Rams' passing attack has been good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that this is a bit of a fade number for me. I think that a lot of the Rams' passing attack is a fade for me today, just because of how much uncertainty OBJ being in the lineup generates. But yeah,
I lean under there, but yeah, I'm not betting that.
Yeah, I mean, and the model does have 282 for Stafford, which is slightly under.
And you know what? I mean, I know we haven't really mentioned them a lot, and we will when we get into receiving props, but Higbee's not bad. I mean, he's a guy who I know he hasn't had, like you said, large quantity and high volume, but he could potentially tonight. So we'll see what happens in this one when Cooper Kupp could get shaded a few times by a safety. So some other guys are gonna have to step up.
Yeah. Definitely for the Rams, somebody's going to have to step up. And it might be one of the top options. It might be Kupp, or it might be Higbee, or it might be a guy a little deeper down the roster. Or it might be OBJ. So what about Garoppolo? 252.5.
Man, this is tough. Kittle's back, but I also think that this could be a game where they really try to establish the run. Because Elijah Mitchell, he was, I think he was banged up last game, or at least coming into it. Or was that 2 weeks ago?
I think that just like the natural state of being for players on the Niners is banged up. Everybody's banged up. Garoppolo's banged up. Kittle's been so banged up he had to miss games. Mitchell's been banged up. Deebo Samuel's banged up. Everybody's banged up.
Yeah, but I think he was on a snap count. So I don't think he's going to be on any sort of count today. Anyways, how this affects Garoppolo, does he get enough attempts to take him over this number with Kittle? Maybe, but it's hard to say, and this potentially could be a spot too if, let's say, the 49ers get down, they have to pass, but I'm personally going to stay away from this number.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that both of these passing yard numbers are pretty much right where they should be. Just taking into account the matchup and how the defenses have done and how the quarterbacks have performed.
Mm-hmm.
So on to rushing props. Is there a team that you'd like to start with, Ben?
No, you can start with whomever.
Okay, the last time you said that, you went and gave a guy from the other team anyways, so better start with the Rams.
All right, well, I guess we're starting with 49ers.
Start with the Rams, because Darrell Henderson's on top. So we got Darrell Henderson over-under, 67.5 rushing yards. Matthew Stafford, noted scrambler, over-under 2.5. Sony Michel, 22.5. And is there anybody over here that you're interested in?
No, I didn't see anything I liked. I do have a lean a little bit on Sony Michel's over because they have been getting him a little more involved into the offense and he's been seeing more snaps, but 22, that's a fair number. If it was like 17, 18, I'd probably play it, but 22 seems like a fair number, so I'm staying away.
Yeah, and it is a little bit interesting what the Rams are doing with this running back split, because last year and the first couple weeks of this year, they've really been a team that have been a one running back team. So whoever it is, there's like each day has the guy, and that guy's going to get 75-80% of the carries, and they've shifted away from that a little bit this year. So Henderson is not getting 80% of the carries. It's been more like a 2-to-1 split over the last 5 weeks or so for the most part.
Yeah,
so
minus the Lions game, but
yeah, minus the Lions game.
Other than that, yeah.
Yeah, it's been 2-to-1 or even a little bit closer. So I think just from that perspective, I think we can see that in the model projections here too. I mean, it's not 2-to-1, or I mean, it's closer than 2-to-1, is what it is. I mean, it's like 12 carries for Henderson, 8 carries for Michel.
Yeah,
and I think from that perspective, if you're going to take an over, comparing these numbers, Michel has to be the guy. 22.5 to 67.5. I mean, that's implying 3-to-1 in favor of Henderson, as opposed to like a 2-to-3 type split, like the 60-40, like the model thinks.
And Nick, what I really think it is, coaches, I think, well, and they've always felt this way, but they can't afford one of these guys getting banged up, I think. And I think they're just kind of hedging themselves like, hey, maybe we acknowledge that Henderson's the better back, but we got to get Michel in there so Henderson doesn't have 95% of the snaps.
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep your best players on the field as much as you can. I mean, and especially with running backs, we just know that running them more makes them last a lot shorter.
Yeah.
Like they burn out. I mean, and you see it with Derrick Henry this year. I mean, there's nothing about him that made him seem injury prone.
No, he's a beast.
But you get hit enough, you run enough, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, and when you break it down at the end of the season, it could almost be like, well, Henderson played a full 9 games, and then Michel played a full 8 games versus like a workhorse type running back at another team played a full 17, if that makes sense. So you gotta You got to get these guys through the season. So I think that's what it is here. And yeah, I still think there's a little value on Michelle's over, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The more I look at it, yeah.
So
It's not sexy, but you know.
No, it's not sexy. But I mean, it's a backup running back rushing yards prop. There's nothing sexy about that. Mm-hmm. So running backs against the Niners haven't had a whole lot of success as far as yards per carry is concerned. We're looking at about 3.79 yards per carry from running backs against the Niners on the year. But the volume has been quite high. Close to 24 carries per game by running backs against the Niners. I think they're right up there towards the top of the league in that category. Mm-hmm. And again, I think that if Michelle gets 7, 8, 9 carries, this over 22.5 looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's take a look at the Niners now. So we've got Elijah Mitchell, over under 62.5. Jimmy Garoppolo, over under 3.5. And
do you have anything here?
I think there's one important thing to note, and that there's just no number 2 back listed for the Niners. So on the model side, it basically takes a whole game's worth of carries and just gives everything to Elijah Mitchell. So it's done this in the past, and it's going to keep doing it until they have like any kind of number 2 back. So Jeff Wilson missed the sim. I spelled his name. I had to rerun it late to account for a couple things, and I misspelled. Well, I spelled Jeff Wilson right, but the roster file to match and find his actual stats and stuff has his name as Jeffrey Wilson. So the text match failed. So Wilson missed the sim. So you can expect to give some of this 92 yards to Wilson or whoever the backup backs are for the Niners. So you can think of this as like a whole Niners team stats, as opposed to just Mitchell. That being said, I think this is really game flow dependent. I think if the Niners go down a couple scores, you might see Garoppolo getting a lot more action in the passing attack. But if the Niners go up, I think there's no way that Mitchell goes under, unless he gets hurt or something. So, yeah. Go ahead.
I think I like Mitchell too, but 62. It's definitely my lean on the over.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting to look at this from just a win versus loss perspective. So Mitchell has played the better part of 6 games. In the 3 of those that they've won, 19 carries for 104 yards, 17 carries for 42 yards, which is a high volume game but a low efficiency grade game. Mm-hmm. And then against the Bears, 18 for 137. So you're seeing 14 to 20 carries. Usually, I mean, in 2 of the 3 games, 100 plus yards. In the losses, 9 carries for 43 yards, 18 for 107 in that crazy game against Indianapolis where it was pouring and windy. And then 8 for 36 against the Cardinals last week. So I think that this Mitchell prop is just completely dependent on whether the Niners win or lose. I think if they win, it goes over. If they lose, it goes under. And if you're into SGPs, I think that this is the kind of correlation that you want to look for to really make an SGP worthwhile. Because Vegas just isn't going to factor it in quite as importantly as I think that it is in this situation. Mm-hmm. So you're like a Rams to cover and a Mitchell under, or the other way around.
Yeah, and I also think Kittle being back in the lineup actually helps Mitchell out because he's actually a decent blocker, but I think it's just another guy you have to worry about. And I think it's just going to open up the offense even more so. And then if they get a lead, then Mitchell is going to get more touches, kind of like what you alluded to.
Mm-hmm. So a couple questions. VSM says, does the model like Ayuk? We'll get to receiving props shortly. And Big Jim says, do most books have combined yards? Yes, they do. So I believe for Henderson, looking at down here, rushing plus receiving is at 88.5. That was the one that you're interested in. So Ben, you want to talk about receiving props?
Yes,
Yes.
I do.
Yes, I do. I need that yes on the soundboard.
Yes.
Yes. So, do you have a team that you want to start with?
Yeah, I want to start with the Rams here.
Start with the Rams. All right. We got Cooper Kupp, over under 97.5 receiving yards. Darrell Henderson, 17.5. Odell Beckham Jr., over under 33.5. Sony Michel, 5.5. Tyler Higbee, 41.5. Van Jefferson, 51.5. So who's your guy here?
I think Van Jefferson is going to have a big game tonight. I got this at 47.5, so it's gone up, and I'm not surprised.
We can shop around a little bit, but while I'm doing that, why do you like this Van Jefferson receiving over?
So the big thing with Van Jefferson, doing some research today. First of all, he checks the box for his talent. He's running good crisp routes. He doesn't have a lot of drops. He's getting good targets, and he has good snap share percentage. I think he was at 80% on passing downs or passing plays. So that was with Woods in, and with Woods out, he has a very similar type of format to what Woods had. So I think it's going to be a thing where he just kind of fills the void for Woods. And I know OBJ's kind of inserted. We've talked a lot about that. But I think he's going to get like 8 targets tonight, Nick. And if he can get five grabs, I think he's going to go over this number. 50.5 is the lowest you have there, or could find.
Yeah, 50.5 is the lowest.
Okay.
It's 51.5 everywhere else.
Okay, I like that number still. I think he's gonna get a lot of volume. I really do.
Yeah, so what I think is kind of interesting here, and of course the switch in teams and the adjustment period isn't something that the model can take into account in any way. Mm-hmm. But it actually has Jefferson pretty close to OBJ's number, and OBJ really close to Jefferson's number.
Interesting.
So I think that at least tells us that if we do think that there is this volume mismatch, say, that this is kind of where it should be. So we've got Jefferson at 39, Odell Beckham Jr. at 55, more or less. And if we just think of them being switched instead, so Jefferson is going to fill the OBJ shoes tonight, basically, then I think that we are looking at potentially a little bit of value on that Jefferson over.
Absolutely, and I think that's a really good way to kind of break it down. Absolutely. So 50.5, again, he's going to get those looks. He's even a little... So the biggest difference between Jefferson and Woods is Woods will have or has had more catches kind of as your possession receiver, and Jefferson will have a little deeper routes and some deep threat type of home run hitter looks. But yeah, I think he's going to do just fine tonight, and I like his upside in this one. I really do.
So I feel like we should talk about Cooper Kupp for a second. This is an obscenely high receiving number for anybody,
in my opinion. You know what? I might just go and bet that under right now.
So I am reliant right now on Cooper Kupp to win my fantasy matchup. I don't need 99 yards or 97.5 yards from Cooper Kupp. I'm currently losing by less than half a point. And I have Cooper Kupp going and my opponent has nobody going. So I think I'm okay. But just on principle, I won't bet against my guy I have in fantasy.
Nick, this is the highest receiving mark of the year, by the way.
Is it? I think that we've seen Devontae Adams in the mid 90s as well.
Yeah,
But I think
so
like 94, 95 and a half.
did like a quick search on it. So if I'm wrong on that, I didn't go through every team, but I went to Adams, and I think Adams was at 95.
Yeah, I think we saw a 95 and a half for Adams.
But last year we saw some Diggs numbers, I think, at 100 something.
Yeah, I mean, and later on in the year, I think you'll see these numbers start to get a little bit bigger.
Yeah. But man, 97 and a half, it just seems like a number that people are like, well, Woods is out. OBJ, I don't know about him. Someone's got to catch the ball.
Yeah, so it is also worth pointing out that Cooper Kupp has gone over this number 5 out of 10 games this year.
Yeah, he has.
And in a further 3 games, so 3 of the times he went under, he would have hit an over 91 and a half still.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
sorry,
it's not like they're
also
just
it's
putting-
5 out of 9 that Kupp has gone over this number. So yeah, if there's somebody who's gonna hit this, Cooper Kupp is probably the guy. And I don't even think that I like the under necessarily. I think I lean over for Kupp. Is he gonna get some extra attention? Yeah. Is he guaranteed volume? Also, yeah.
What number would you not like this at?
I think like 110. It sounds
Yeah.
crazy. But I mean, is he not going to see an uptick in volume? It's not like all of Robert Woods' volume is going to go to Jefferson and OBJ. Like,
But how much more of an uptick can he actually see, though?
He could see 15 targets instead of 13 targets, and that's an extra catch, and that's an extra 10 yards.
Yeah, but is that enough margin for you to feel comfortable playing that over?
I don't think I'm going to play the over, but I definitely lean the over.
Yeah, I was trying to look at his targets.
He's been between 9 and 13 targets every game this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like extremely consistent
Yeah.
target wise.
Well, you know what I would do if I was the 49ers defense?
Quadruple team him.
What's after quadruple?
Quintuple.
Quintuplet? Yeah.
Quintuple team him.
I would definitely, you don't have to double him, but you should shade a safety over him. I mean, with those numbers, it's one of those things where you come into this game and you can't, if Cooper Kupp does that to you, I think you're silly. But
So the other thing is like shading a safety doesn't really help with Cooper Kupp
because he runs a lot of
because he's a slot receiver. He runs short routes.
Yeah.
Safety coverage over the top does absolutely nothing.
It's not always over the top though. I mean, you can have a guy that's
Well, okay. Or
traditionally-
if you bring the safety into the box to help on a slant or something, then what does that do?
opens the field for my boy Van Jefferson.
Yeah, but I think they'd rather just let Kupp catch those.
You know what I think's the better bet here?
What's the better bet?
I think his reception over.
What's
I like
that? It's
that
got to
more.
be 8.5 or something.
I didn't look at it. I was gonna guess it was at. Well, actually, I was gonna guess 7.5.
So I'm showing 7.5, but minus 140 on the over here.
Man, I wish that was like
Points bet has over 8.5 plus 110.
Yeah, that's a good number. 140. What's 140 at? What book?
Draftkings.
That's a lot of juice.
It is.
All right, we can talk about the 49ers now.
Yeah, I thought it was important to talk about that because it was such a crazy looking number. Also, Uzi Stream Snipes says, "Need Ayuk to give me 3 points?" That is definitely possible. I'd be shocked if you did not get 3 points out of Ayuk.
Yeah, he should be able to do that. And Clockworks actually makes a really good point, and I think I alluded to this when we first discussed OBJ, that the biggest factor he may have is just him being on the field, right? Because it's almost like smoke and mirrors. But at the same time, you can't just think that as a defense, like, oh, he's a pawn right now. And then all of a sudden he runs like a slant route for a touchdown. So that's a really good point. But I think Woods being out and then OBJ being in, I actually think the biggest beneficiary of that is going to be Jefferson. So
yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. There's definitely a little uncertainty as far as who exactly is going to get the targets. You can make good arguments for a lot of guys.
Yeah. So
you know who's not? Yeah, you know who's definitely not going to get any of the missing targets from Robert Woods is all the guys on the Niners.
Yes.
So we've got Brandon Ayuk over under 50.5. Deebo Samuel 70.5. Elijah Mitchell 12.5. George Kittle 61.5. Jawan Jennings 17.5. Kyle Juszczyk 12.5.
What was Kittle at?
Kittle is at 61.5.
61.5. Okay. Man, why does that seem like such a easy number to play over on?
Because it's George Kittle, and a fully healthy George Kittle would see a number like 80.
Yeah. It kind of feels like a Brandon Ayuk game, right? Am I crazy for thinking that?
Is there such a thing as a Brandon Ayuk game right now?
Well, from what I've been hearing, it seems like he's getting at least more respect from how he's looked and played and all the things, but it's a lot of coach speak. I'm not going to bet that over, but it is interesting.
Yeah. So Ayuk, I actually think that this number is quite high at 50.5. What has he done to make him deserve a 50.5 number? His snap count and his target volume have gone up the last couple of weeks. He's seen 7 and 8 targets the last 2 weeks after not seeing any more than 6 the entire year before that. He's seen 88 and 93% of the snaps, despite only even hitting the 80s once before that. So those are up. Receiving yards, 45 and 89 the last 2 weeks. So he is improving. I'd like to see it sustained a little bit more before we go into that, or before we look at an over for Ayuk.
Yeah.
Skoronek, however you say his name, I didn't see a number for him, at least where we looked.
Yeah.
That's like the new number 4 receiving option for the Rams. So again, the model is going to be giving these guys just a little bit extra volume. The backup running back, which again, like I said before, got omitted from the sim, is typically a guy who's going to see some volume in the passing game. So all of these model numbers are a little high, I would say, on the Niner side of things. But we've still got Kittle at 78.5. And I think that number could be interesting. So the Rams on the year allowing 61 yards a game to tight ends. Of course, not all that is just like one tight end on a team, and the Niners do have a couple decent number 2 and number 3 options at tight end who can pick up some volume in the receiving game. But I think that this Kittle over 62.5 or 61.5 is also something that could be a good look. Although, again, with the injury, it kind of scares me. And I think also on that note, with the injury, a lot of the target distribution for the Niners will just depend on how much Kittle gets. If it's a big Kittle game, everyone else is going under. If Kittle is a decoy and not actually a primary receiving option, you could see a lot of other guys go over.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But it seems like a game where 61, man, it's just begging you to take the over.
Yeah.
I don't mean you, but
well, I know what you mean. General you.
You.
You. So one guy that I think is a little interesting here is actually Elijah Mitchell at 12.5. So the Rams on the year also allow quite a bit through the air to running backs. They're averaging almost 6 catches allowed per game to running backs, 46 yards through the air. Elijah Mitchell isn't really a guy who's seen a whole lot of volume in the passing game. For example, in all of his 100-yard games that he's had, he hasn't even received a target. Not even a target.
Kind of funny.
It is.
It's like today you're running the ball the whole time. Mm-hmm. Don't even worry about catching.
But in the other 3 games where he's not been so successful rushing, they have looked to get him involved in the passing attack. 2 catches on 2 targets for 11 yards, 2 on 2 for 19, and then 5 catches on 5 targets for 43 yards in those other games. So, if we're thinking, which we're not, I suppose, but if you're thinking that you like the Rams in this game, I think an Elijah Mitchell receiving over is a good look as a play that's a little bit correlated with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
The other guy who might get some catches out of the backfield to fill up some of that volume is actually Kyle Juszczyk. And I think he's another interesting guy. I think his number was also 12.5. It is. So he's seen pretty consistent volume in the passing game. He's had, I guess, week 7 against Indianapolis in that rain game, he didn't get any targets. And week 1, he only had 1 target. But he's had 2+ targets and double-digit yards every other game this year.
Wow.
So I actually really like this Kyle Juszczyk over 12.5 receiving yards. I'm also just a big Kyle Juszczyk fan.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
I love me some fullbacks. Also, he's a former Raven, so I like him for that reason as well.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
There it is. I'm biased.
There it is.
Disregard everything I say.
Do we have a revenge game narrative in anything today?
Yes, we do.
Didn't find it.
I'm very happy you brought that up.
Oh, perfect.
The revenge narrative is OBJ against the haters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There you go.
There it is.
Yeah. The first play of the game on offense, they should just run a go.
Just let Stafford air it out to OBJ.
Yeah. Just, and what if it's overthrown, whatever. But fuck it.
Yeah. What's the worst thing that could happen? 7 points for the other team? They can come back from that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a long punt if they intercept it.
Yeah. All right. Anything else that you'd like to look at?
No, I think that's about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Touchdown props. Fuck touchdown props.
Yeah.
So Ben.
Never want to do those.
Nope, me either. What is your top bet for tonight going to be?
It's Van Jefferson over 50.5 receiving yards. I think he's going to have a big night tonight. And I think he's going to score a touchdown, too. I'm going to get crazy with it.
Didn't you just say no touchdown props?
Well, no, I'm just saying I think he's going to score a touchdown. I'm not telling anyone to bet the touchdown. I'm just saying I think he's going to score a touchdown tonight.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And my favorite prop, I'm actually going to shop around to see if I can get a better number. But I like that Kyle Juszczyk over 12.5 receiving yards. You know, I'm not going to shop. That's a waste of time. It's not a waste of time. Be sure you shop for the best line.
Yeah. Nick said it's a waste of time.
But on the stream, I'm not going to shop around. Not right now. We're going to go Kyle Juszczyk over 12.5 receiving yards. And
let's go,
there,
Kyle.
You have it. That is tonight's stream. So thank you all, as always, for tuning in. Appreciate that very much. We got kickoff in probably like 10 minutes. Got a lot of college basketball going on as well. So good luck on the bets tonight. And Ben, unless you've got anything else to say, I think we're gonna wrap up.
Last thing, I think tomorrow we'll be on for college basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Chase is going to be on for tomorrow with you, and then I'll be on Saturday. But yeah, excited to break down that slate.
Alrighty. Peace, everyone, and good
See
luck.
you guys.